Chiefs win the Super Bowl.
Chiefs win. Cry, Eagles, cry.
Great, excited to be back in the league.
You know, every day I got the Three Stooges in the studio with me is a good fucking day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
So let's make sure he gets that bag.
Frauds, frauds! Woo!
Justin's way ahead in picks. That's all that you need to fucking know.
Show's over.
Show's over. We're going home. I would like to welcome you back to another page of the Playbook Sports Podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to 32 NFL offseasons in 32 days. Yesterday, we talked about the Indianapolis Colts and their very special offseason. Honestly, I love what they're doing over there, but we're not going to talk about them today. Let's talk about our third straight AFC South team, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville, you guys must be feeling great, knowing that the 2021 season was not actually a sign of Trevor Lawrence being overhyped or anything like that, but rather Urban Meyer just not being cut out for the NFL. Thank God that Shad Khan and the general manager, I believe it's Trent Baalke is his name, recognized that quickly, got him out of there, and brought in Doug Peterson, who absolutely has this team on the right track. And they showed that this season with a very competitive showing in the playoffs, including a massive come-from-behind victory over the Chargers. I think the Jags are the real deal. Jaguars fans, this is what relevancy feels like. Welcome. It's a lot more fun when your team is good than when your team is constantly fighting for the first overall pick. I think they're the real deal. I don't think it's a crazy thing for me to say that the AFC South goes through Jacksonville for the foreseeable future. Until we know what all the new AFC South quarterbacks look like, it's Trevor Lawrence and the Jags and then everybody else. But let's talk about what they did this offseason to get better and try and close the gap between them and the upper echelon of teams in the AFC. Key additions for the Jaguars actually start with a player who I don't know if it's fair to count him as a part of this offseason, but I'm going to anyways because he didn't play for him last year. Calvin Ridley. Essentially, it's like they picked him up this year in free agency. For Atlanta, Ridley put up fantastic statistics. Not counting his shortened 2021 season, he put up 3,342 yards, so 3,342 yards. I don't know why I said that weird. 26 touchdowns on 217 catches over 3 seasons. Averages out to a little over 1,100 yards a year, 7, 8 almost touchdowns a season, and 75 catches a year. Just crazy numbers over 3 years, especially when you consider that he was the number 2 receiver for most of those seasons except for his third one when Julio Jones left. This Jags offense towards the end of last season looked fantastic. Now you're just adding in Calvin Ridley to it. That is a scary, scary thing. He is going to absolutely ball this season, man. He is going to be a monster in that offense. But outside of him being added kind of this offseason, they really didn't bring in any marquee free agents or anything. I do like that they placed the franchise tag on Evan Ingram. Keep him around and see if last year was legit. And if it's legit, then lock him down. But he's only had one really good year in the NFL, and he was already off the team that drafted him early in the Giants, and now he's on the Jags, had a good year last year. Let's see if he can do it again before giving him a long-term deal. I think that was smart. Now let's talk about losses for the Jags. One of the bigger losses this offseason hit the Jags, in my opinion, especially when you look at the money. They lost Jawan Taylor to the Chiefs for a big old contract. They are going to have to try to replace him this year, which, spoiler alert, they try in the draft. But I do have some concerns about that for them, especially early on in the season because of is it Cam Robinson? I always confuse him and Greg Robinson. That's on me. But their left tackle who's going to step in and replace Jawan Taylor potentially, or Anton Harrison, who we'll talk about shortly here. Either way, they were going to have to replace a starter who didn't grade out great in PFF, but either way, he looked pretty good on the field. So they've got to figure that out. And then they also lost Arden Key, their defensive end. That move doesn't hurt so badly, though, because they've got Travon Walker and they've got Josh Allen both rushing the passer. They have consistently drafted defensive linemen early for several years now. So let's get into the draft here. For the Jaguars, they had a ton of picks in this draft, and I'll be honest, guys, I didn't love any of them. I didn't love them. I don't hate them. I just didn't love any of them. And with so many picks, that's tough. I do have my concerns about Anton Harrison. I think he needs time to adjust, and he's not going to be given time. Since Robinson's out for at least, I think, 6 weeks or a few weeks at least. I don't know if there's an official timetable on it. But Harrison is going to have to be the week 1 left tackle. And if he's not, he's probably their best option, and that's not great. He needs time to adjust, and he's not going to get it. I do like Brenton Strange at pick 61. I think that was pretty good value, the tight end out of Penn State. It's just an insurance policy. If Evan Ingram doesn't work out and you're not happy with what you see after this season, all right, well, you got someone cheap that you can groom and teach the offense to his rookie season. So I like that pick. And I didn't mind the Tank Bigsby pick at 88, a very solid running back. It'll be interesting to see his role with Travis Etienne, definitely eating up most of the carries in Jacksonville, and he's a stud. But Tank Bigsby could steal a couple of carries here and there, and he's got some pretty good speed. So it'll be interesting to see. But, again, I'm just talking about where they brought in depth. And I just don't know how, they drafted a second tight end. They drafted a second running back. And then they drafted an offensive lineman who they probably hoped wouldn't have to start week 1, and he's going to have to start week 1. So I just didn't love, with all these draft picks, the value that they got from them. I don't see a ton of value in the class. And for that, I'm going to have to give them a C grade for their draft. As far as the offseason goes overall, I really, just like I said earlier, I don't think they made a ton of moves to improve their roster to help close the gap. I do like Anton Harrison as a tackle for them, but I do think he's being put into kind of a rough spot because he's going to be a week 1 starting left tackle. I will say, fortunately for the Jaguars, they only play 2 playoff teams that were in the playoffs, 2 teams that were in the playoffs last season in the first 6 weeks. So if he misses the max 6 weeks, they only play 2 playoff teams. Unfortunately, against the Bills and Chiefs, those are going to be really tough games now, whereas if they had a fully healthy starting lineup and everybody was playing, then it would have been maybe a better game. But they're going to have a tough time against those 2 teams. I am going to factor in the addition of Calvin Ridley this offseason because, yes, they made the move last offseason, but it was with an eye on this offseason because I want to say they knew he was being suspended if he wasn't already suspended. And so they knew that this wasn't a move for last season, it's a move for this season. So I'm going to give them a few points for that. And I give them an overall C+ for the offseason. Losing Juwan Taylor hurts, especially when the next man up has to miss time. But we'll learn a lot about Anton Harrison early, which isn't always a bad thing. As far as what kind of a team this is, the Jaguars, I think they're a team that feels that their championship window is just starting to creak open. They're just starting to smell a little bit of fresh air out of the dungeon that they've been living in. The offense was fantastic last season, especially towards the end. Remember, Trevor Lawrence only has played 2 seasons in the NFL, and he's already looked at as one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL, and that's only going to go up with time. And I really like him and Doug Peterson together. They remind me a lot of Mahomes and Reed. So maybe, who knows what they can do down there in Jacksonville. Like I said, I like the offensive boost with getting Calvin Ridley. And I think that they've got a lot of young pieces on that defense that will hopefully continue to grow and take another step. But while I don't think that there's the 4 divisions in the AFC, there's the 3 other divisions outside of the South have heavyweights in them. You've got the Bengals in the North, you've got the Bills in the East, you've got the Chiefs in the West, and then the Jags in the South. They're not on the same tier as the top teams in the AFC. But I think they will run the AFC South this year, maybe lose one AFC South game at worst, en route to back-to-back playoff appearances. With Jags fans, you should still be excited about that. So that's what I've got for you guys on the Jacksonville Jaguars. I will be back tomorrow with day number 16 of 32 NFL offseasons in 32 days. Halfway through this series, guys. If you have any other series ideas that you want to see me do, start thinking about them, because once this series ends, I'm going to jump right into another one. So comment down below. Let me know what you think. Make sure you hit that red subscribe button for me. Shout out to all the new subscribers we've gotten over the last couple weeks here. It's been a ton of fun getting to do all this, and you guys seem to be enjoying them. So appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next one.